Great. Why don't we begin with the pledge of allegiance? I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, are there any changes to the agenda?
Yes, I have one change. I would like to move board matters up to just after the superintendent's report.
Okay, thank you, Christine. We'll do that. Okay. And does anybody else have anything to add in terms of board matters? No, in terms of the agenda. Okay, then we'll move on to public comments. So this is the period when we have public comments. Alex, do you want to check with anybody online? And we've got a couple of people here in the audience, so.
Online, nobody's raised their hands yet.
Okay, very good. Now, our process for in-house is, I think speakers need to identify themselves and also have a microphone, is that right?
Identify the name and place of residence.
Place of residence.
Town of residence. Town of residence, yeah.
Okay.
Not your address.
Anybody, would either of you like to make a comment?
Sure. Comment, question?
Let's give you a microphone.
Yeah.
You won't hear yourself inside. It's just to record.
That's fine. Doug Cardy, 368 River Street.
I'm sorry, the last name?
Cardy, Carty.
Thank you.
Last house in Jaffrey before the Ridge border.
Yes.
And my wife Chantel Cardy. So we live across the street from the property that the school district owns, the Jaffrey Ridge property that's currently being logged. And we had some questions about that particular property and how it's going to be, what's being done to it currently, and then what its future plans are.
Well, what's being done right now is some selective logging. We brought in a forester a year and a half ago. He made recommendations on which trees would be, wise to take at this point because they've reached maturity. They would have some value, but it's being done on a tree by tree basis. There's no clear cutting involved.
Okay.
And then in terms of what's being done in the future, there is a petition article that's been submitted by a resident of Ringe to direct the school board to sell the property. But there's, a variety of opinions on that. And as we understand it, there's such instructions would be advisory. That's what we understand from council at this point, at least. But what's going to happen in the future, I would say we don't know, but we think it's a valuable piece of property that could be used for a variety of educational purposes. And there's certainly a group of citizens who worked as an advisory committee throughout the past 9 months, met a half a dozen times, I guess. And they all, expressed the view that the property has more value to the district than we would likely get if we sold it.
Okay.
So it's nothing's decided at this point. It's something that's going to be before the school board and before the town in some fashion or other.
We had looked at, when we were proposing our CTE expansion, we had looked at that as a possible location for it, along with the campus here, and decided to go forward with the project on the campus here.
Okay.
So that was, I think, the main, that was the most real, I guess, possibility for use of that land. But we're no longer moving forward with that. We're moving forward with that project on the campus here. So as of right now, we don't have any plans beyond what John said, although we do realize that there's the potential for future projects.
Okay. Follow-up question, if I may?
Yes.
If at some point the school district does decide to sell property, any property, how is that typically done? Is it put out to bid or is it listed somewhere or is it, how is that process handled?
Well, we would certainly consult with attorneys on how to do that. It's my understanding that the town would have to approve a sale, but the decision to put that to the town would be a school board decision.
Okay.
And then we would follow whatever procedures are, required by law.
I guess what I'm asking is, would there be a chance that that particular piece years to come, this is all hypothetical, of course.
Yep.
If it were to be sold, would there be opportunity for someone as a developer to come in previous to it being, to others in the area being notified that it was being put up for sale? Or would it be everyone have the same opportunity at the same time?
I would think that it would have to be open.
Sure.
To all, potential bidders.
Okay.
Again, we would follow council's advice on that, but that's my understanding. That's how we do pretty much everything else.
Okay.
In terms of, purchasing. So,
Do you have any other questions? Okay, thank you for your time.
Thank you for the questions.
Yeah, it's a good question.
Yes, if you are interested in kind of hearing other opinions on it, we will be having our deliberative session on Wednesday at 6:30 at RMS, and I imagine that this will be kind of possibly one of the more heavily discussed topics. Yeah, okay. All right, thank you.
all right, and now Maddie, it's time for our student representative report. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me again. So I guess this doesn't necessarily apply to all learners at Conant, but like specifically seniors. This year Conant has done like a really great job with inclusivity, like mixing the middle school and the high school and having sports teams for everybody. But one thing I noticed is that some learners aren't represented the same way as others. I'm a senior this year and I've been with the pep band. So we go to all the basketball games, or most of them. I've been with pep band for 5 years. So I started my 8th grade year. And like one thing that I think I finally realized this year is that I don't get like a senior night at all. And I know it's like definitely a sports thing and I'm so glad that they have the opportunity to do that. But I've been with the with the varsity basketball team for longer than some of the varsity basketball players have been on the team. So, I mean, it would definitely be nice to have everybody like represented equally like that. I don't know how many sports teams don't actually have a senior night. But I'm close friends with somebody who's on the indoor track team and she also doesn't get a senior night. But I think it's really important to represent all the seniors because I know we've all worked really hard to be where we are and I've always like came and supported the basketball team. So I think it would just be nice for us to also have an opportunity to recognize seniors.
Yeah, I agree with you, Maddie, and I think that it does intentionally or unintentionally, right, send the message that some groups are more important than other groups, and I don't think that's intentional, but I think is the result.
Yeah.
Right? Certainly, you're in that position,
Yeah.
and you feel that way. That's what I'm hearing from you.
Yeah.
It's like what I do is not as important. Yeah, and that should change. Totally agree.
I would think it would be more inclusive than exclusive. We shouldn't be saying it's specifically for the basketball, that's specifically for fall sports. Winter
For
sports.
activities, right?
Right,
It's not
sports
just
and
sports.
activities.
It's a really good point. My children do not do any Conant sports. So I tend to look at things through a different eye as well.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's not just about the sports. And what about, and I have been to games and I've seen you up on the stage in the pep band and it's wonderful having the band there. It really brings.
We all love doing it too, so.
It's a good point. I don't
And I
know.
don't think what you're asking for is much, probably just a brief moment of recognition, right?
Yeah,
Where you and your parents can
yeah,
recognize your dedication and Absolutely.
So there's senior night and then there's, like the awards banquet.
Yeah, we don't go to any of those.
You don't have anything.
No,
And I'm sure you don't get a varsity letter either.
no, I don't.
But you got t-shirts.
I did. Well, that's the thing. Technically, we don't even own, the pep band doesn't actually own our own t-shirts. We're borrowing them for the year. So,
Oh, okay.
yeah. And they're trying to figure out a way, possibly for us to maybe be able to buy them at the end of the season, but it's not guaranteed.
Well, that's a topic that we've been discussing somewhere. We've heard a number of people bring up that, you know, recognition should be not just limited to the major teams. Well, any thoughts on how that could work, that we could?
I mean, we can have something, I know the basketball season's almost over, but we can have something similar to what the cheerleaders have at the basketball games. Maybe like specifically for pep band, because I know almost everybody in concert band is also in pep band. So the same seniors apply to both. So even if we just had something like the cheerleaders have, they get recognized at the basketball games for their seniors. So even if we had something like that, or I know we can't really get awards if we went to the banquet. So I mean something like that too, but
Loudest trumpet.
yeah.
Okay, well, thank you.
Yeah.
That's a good idea, something specific, so
Yeah.
we'll make sure to pass that on. And appreciate it. Anything else going on at the school that we should, that we want to know about?
I know they finally they set prom plans in place, which is exciting. The junior class plans that, and I was part of it last year, so I know it's something really, really fun to do. And I'm all the seniors are glad that like it's finally in place, so we can look forward to it.
When is it going to be?
It's I don't remember the date. I know it's in May.
Okay,
It should be on either Friday or Saturday in May.
good. And do they have a location identified or are they?
It's at Hidden Hills in Ringe.
Okay. Great. Nice. Well, excellent.
Yeah.
These are exciting times.
Yeah.
Coming into the home stretch. Does anybody else have any questions for our student rep?
I'll just ask a question because I know you mentioned as far as middle school students and high school students, you're a senior,
Yep.
right? I have middle school students, and I guess when I ask them about how much interaction they have with high school students, they say, not much really. I just wonder what's your impression of that? Because I think that some people think it's maybe like one school and there's middle schoolers interacting with high schoolers, and I think that may be the case sometimes with some clubs, but what do you see on a day-to-day basis?
Well, currently I take music theory, so I walk all the way through the middle school. It's only high schoolers, I believe. So I mean, I'm not necessarily talking to all these middle schoolers, but we do have 2 8th graders in band.
Yeah.
So I regularly interact with them there. And all the clubs that I'm in, I believe it's only high school students currently, but we do work with teachers to like nominate 8th graders when their time comes. So I mean, for me, I feel like I get a little bit more interaction with middle schoolers than maybe some other people do, but just because I'm involved with so many activities, I guess.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Maddie, for coming in, for providing your input. Appreciate it. I guess that brings us to the to the superintendent's report.
It's all good. So I want to thank Maddie for talking about inclusivity because while there are some items that we certainly need to continue to improve upon, it was good to hear that, hey, we as a school system here have made some gains in those areas with the example of middle school and high school coming together and having uniforms, the athletic teams, making sure that we are, by instituting that no cut rule a couple of years ago, just having so many more individuals be able to be part of the system and be part of the school and not on the outside of things. That's been great. And so that's been a goal of the school boards and of the administration and the teachers and the students, certainly the students, to have a more inclusive environment, a more welcoming, friendly environment that recognizes all individuals for the talent that they have. Dave Beauchamp, some of you don't know that name, former director of student services here, used to say, everyone needs to have a claim to fame. And it doesn't mean like we're all going to be popular or anything, or maybe have our 15 minutes on TV or anything like that. But just like you can feel proud that you are part of something and that you're good at something, whatever that might be, and be able to pursue that and be inspired by those around you who also have those claims to their own fame in a sense. And so love the feedback. I think it's so important that we keep on working more and more intentionally to being able to make a more equitable, inclusive school system. And we've taken some great strides, but it's humbling really to, like, when you hear that and go, oh man, we have a ways to go and we can do better and better. And we've even just in how we have our, I think, Heather Lindstad at one time said, oh gosh, the way we have this sports banquet, for instance, was an example. I think this was last year, made me realize that in how we did it, we excluded a whole group of individuals, and it wasn't by any intention. It's just that this has been the practice, and we have to keep on observing what we're doing. We need to challenge our own practices and see what we can be doing better so that we are welcoming to all individuals and honoring all those individuals for the good that they do. So thank you for that. On Wednesday, with that in mind, we have kind of a choice. We have a choice to kind of have a meeting that is very businesslike, and which I think it will be businesslike, but here's our first warrant article, here's our second warrant article, here's our third warrant article, please pass this. The school board wants, agrees with this, doesn't agree with this. And that's important. And so I think that conversation will be had right after I'm done with this, with my portion here. But to lead into that, in having conversation with board members and knowing the opportunities that we have maybe a large group of individuals. It's a good opportunity to do, I would say, a smaller version of a state of the district type of, here's what we've been working on for the past several years, a slide or two. Here's what we've accomplished. Here are our priorities that we looked at and that we've been looking at. Here are priorities that we'll be continuing to look at. Some pictures, something easy to understand, not really heavy language that I can often get into because I get excited about, education and then realize 10 minutes later that no one has an idea what I'm talking about. So we'll work on that, make the whole thing 10 minutes perhaps, and then to kind of ease into like, this is the reason why we're here. Leslie's done a nice job already
I'm gonna find that.
the slide deck. Could you actually go some of that? That would be great. Well, first of all, let's just say Leslie's done a great job in the last, she always does a great job, but specifically in the last month and a half with our social media. Leslie's taken over social media for a little while, and Justina is also helping out with that. And we've been able to add about 100 more individuals to our likes or followership, I guess you could say, in the last month. We've had a great deal of interest. We've had more postings about the great things that are happening within our schools at all the levels, the celebrations that have been happening, people recognition. I think we had one, there were 100 likes on it for I lost his name. the DAR Citizen of the Year.
Roland.
Hayden.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Dennis Roland.
yes. Who's also on, Interact and so forth with you. So, just, some really nice celebrating, I think, through that digital lens, which has been nice. We had an interview last Thursday with the Ledger that came over to talk about one of the initiatives that you helped move forward toward the springtime of last year, which was the Little Oriole Center. So a lot of people were interviewed through that process. And so that should be hitting the paper pretty soon, maybe tomorrow. I don't know. I haven't seen anything there. She interviewed 10 people. So it could be a long article or not. But we'll see how that turns out. But that has been a really exciting, again, focusing on inclusivity. We have our youngest learners, 3 months old, a year old, individuals who are tied with our teachers here. And we do take an inclusive approach with them as well. During the holiday season, they were exposed to having conversations and lessons and putting that into their counting lessons with, the 8 days of Hanukkah, along with the celebration of Christmas and so forth and light. So trying to, give them some, give our children some breadth around that area. And then the idea we have utilizing the resources that we naturally have within our school system, specifically in the building where we do have children who have some significant needs, and those children who have significant needs have a lot to offer and have a lot to give back to the community. And so when we bring these groups of people together to celebrate one another and to enjoy one another and to be part of each other's lives, we feel good about the fact that we're building a more inclusive environment. And so,
Here we go. I found it. Sorry.
Yep. So this is something that when people walk in, we usually have the directions up there. We thought maybe just this time we add a little timing to it.
Sorry, let's see.
Is it autoplay? Is that what you're looking for?
Autoplay, yeah.
Yep.
right there.
Every 2 seconds it says, so it can,
It's like every 10 I was doing, but I'll do 5. for
every 5
there.
seconds, okay.
Yeah.
And is that
Loop.
loop?
Yep.
It's really hard to see from.
Okay.
So I think it'll start now.
No, we will find out in 4 seconds.
If not, I'll just advance it.
Are we not doing print budget sheets?
Well, this isn't about, there's some prints,
Okay.
paperwork we'll have there, although most people don't take them. Oh, so there was Hayden right there. That was what I'm talking about. So these are just, we had already created all the content online, so we're saying take some of the stuff that we had posted online and have that on a stream as
People are coming.
people come in, they can look at that, they can read it, they'll see it several times. Then, of course, it will loop it back into,
Every 5th slide, it plays this again.
Oh.
This is
So people
awesome.
don't lose track of it. So this is just while the room's filling up.
This is great.
and the idea of recognition, a lot of these have elements of recognition to it, like the individuals spelling bee,
Oh, yeah.
children's performing at a community meeting. Penguins. High Five Fridays with Chief Muhlenberg. At JGS.
This is great.
Poetry out loud.
That picture. I love that picture so much.
Our,
Chris, that's a terrible, terrible picture of you.
our school board member who's coaching teams as well, promoting the work that we're doing.
Hmm.
The most successful basketball team we have. They do have a game, I think tomorrow night. I've been invited. Do you have a game as well?
Yeah,
here. Yep, so I think your last was against the charter school over there in Keene.
Yeah.
Gathering Waters, yeah,
And that's our cheer team and Messina.
and Messinics, yep.
Event we did together with them.
Nothing on the cards.
I loved Hoops for Hope this year in that, in years past, it's been good. It's been really nice and has been very community focused. I like that the National Honor Society did everything from start to finish by themselves, and it didn't have the handprints of adults all over it. Okay. No. And to make kids write a lot more, we put them out in cold.
It would be funny if we don't caption these.
Oh, sorry, I skipped over one. It's a little too fast there.
Yeah.
That's the play.
Uh-huh.
And then I end with the winter picture, I think.
so Ruben, did I hear you say you're planning on starting off with like a brief kind of state of the district thing? I think that's a great idea, because I think a lot of the people that will be there won't have seen any of this and don't necessarily know what goes on in the schools. And I think that absence of information, they're allowed to kind of fill in the blanks.
Yeah, they
So I
are.
think that we are doing a lot of good stuff here. We're making a lot of progress, and I think we should, take a little bit of time at the beginning to highlight some of those areas.
Yeah, there are a lot of great things to celebrate. There are several things that we're doing that no other school district in the region is doing. In a lot of, don't want to go deep into a lot of those areas, but that we've embraced a lot of innovation, and we should share it with people.
No acronyms.
We'll, we won't use too many acronyms. Thank you.
Good point. Yes. Every time you say MTSSB.
MTSSB, I knew that was what you were talking about. Multi-tiered systems of support for behavior and wellness.
Well, that's something people can understand.
Yeah. There's actually a bill in the legislature right now. This will be my last thing I say, but you brought it up. That hopefully will be sent packing, about social emotional learning, trying to eliminate that from schools and so forth. There's definitely a misunderstanding of what that is, and what that would do to any school, since social emotional learning has always been done within the schools. It's helping individuals learn behavior so that they can be contributing members of society is kind of an important thing. So
I found out in,
that would be an unfortunate, the way it was worded.
yeah,
It was
the,
extreme and extraordinarily foolish.
yeah, that bill, and it's an interesting outcome so far. It's
Okay.
not decided yet.
Yep.
But it's hours, over 3,000 respondents to that, and hours in
Yeah.
committee. So what's happening with that is it's coming to light how important this is. So
So
I can't even imagine that they'll do anything with it. It's just bringing it forward, even in this negative light, is letting people know how important it is and how
Yeah.
many people are coming out from everywhere to say, no, you can't get rid of this. It's too valuable. So hopefully something actually good will come out of this.
Yeah, I would hope so.
Okay.
So you had changed the agenda, right? You're gonna talk about
Board
something,
matters.
board matters.
Yep. And so can we go into board matters and probably continue the conversation about Wednesday?
Yes, okay, so first want to say thank you to Chris for bringing this up, and I know you and Chris talked about it earlier, but it's also something that we've all been aware of over the years, and some years done more of and some years not as much. And that is that as board members, we have an opportunity and really an obligation to, speak to the warrant articles that we've helped to develop and to bring forth to the public. And so what I'd like to do is talk about the role each of us can take on Wednesday and to ask, each of us to maybe, choose something or offer to speak to one of the items on our warrant. And, obviously that we would expect Ruben also to touch on these things. It wouldn't be exclusively necessarily a board member, but we want to make sure that we talk about the budget process, for example, and that we give people some idea of what we went through to develop the budget and to consider where cuts could be made and what things were needed to keep us on track on meeting our strategic goals that we've been working on now for quite a few years. And that's something that you might want to just refresh memories on because, some people might think this is a 3-year process. It's not. It's been a much longer process and the community has been involved. Different school board members have been involved, some of whom, are no longer here, but who were very much involved in understanding and committing. In addition to the budget development process, we have, discussed, we need to have some discussion, we think, of enrollment because enrollment has changed. It's in a trajectory. And in terms of trying to be transparent, we want to help people understand what impact it's had on the budget.
Have a good
on the
night.
costs.
Thank you.
Thank you and good night. So, for example, the fact that the aid received and the funding received by the district for students who dropped out of the schools during the COVID time, that's had an impact. But we did have a 2-year hold harmless period during which those impacts weren't felt. So that's, another piece of the puzzle that people have a right to know and to understand, think about. There was a meeting, a special town meeting arranged by the state to allow school districts to accept additional money that was made available. And we had a special district meeting several months ago. Some people came by and said, well, why are you doing this? Why are you taking this money? And we did tell them what our plans were. So an update on what those monies have been used for and what the benefit is from having done that is another item that we might want to talk about. I also want to mention the warrants. And we have obviously a teacher's contract that we all know is very important and something that we've been very aware of for a long time. We hope that the community, believe that the community is behind that also. But this is an opportunity to talk about that and to talk about what the costs are, but also what the benefits are. Talk a little bit about the teaching staff that we have and say something about why this contract is good for not only the teachers, but for the school district.
I have a question just on the product. Can that article be amended at the deliberative session?
I don't believe.
Which article?
The teacher contract?
No,
No, right?
no, that's a bargain. Next agreed upon item.
The Article 5, to raise and appropriate $50,000 to be placed in the expendable trust fund known as the Special Education Contingency Fund. This is an opportunity to really try to say something appropriate about special education, why it's so important to our learners, how many people are being served, or even why it's so expensive. And again, this is going to require a little thought. And what we would like to do is ask anybody who is willing to speak to any of these items to give some thought to what they might want to say and then share it. So we can have some input, especially on something like special education. But we want to make sure that whatever is said is something that's appropriate, that helps to clarify and doesn't make things more confusing for a population. But and then the petition article, Article 6, relating to the Route 202 land. So what I'd like to ask is that we have a little discussion on this and maybe come up with a plan for who might want to speak to which items.
So me personally, I have been thinking about this for a little while, before it was ever brought up. The only warrant article that ever came to my mind was actually, the teachers' agreement. I could work on any of the other ones if, say, someone else would want to teach agreement over me, but I'll work with whatever we have. I've been trying to think of some, and that's something I could actually think of a full speech out of, but I can work with any of them.
So you were talking about the
Teachers' agreement.
teachers' agreement, okay? Thank you, Nick.
And you have the highlights of it.
So depending on if it was going to be presented beforehand, I was going to present the information. That's the really business kinds, but I was going to really present it as for the voters to obviously think about their own personal well-being and financial well-being when voting on this, because the agreement actually came up because the teachers are thinking about their own financial well-being. That was kind of the high
Can we
end of it.
talk about, I know there are rules that govern how we can communicate through email with each other. Can we work this out via email, or are we?
If it's like one-on-one versus obviously not as a group.
I also think, I think I remember previously, people paired up sometimes to do the big ones as well. So if
I
there
can
was,
help you with the CBA,
Mhm.
because
I assume someone else, I assume someone else had some thoughts as well.
And for something that, I mean, that's one of the bigger ones there. I could see two people.
Yep.
Both speaking on that, right? Some of them are pretty straightforward.
and it can.
And because
I'll share
Christine was on the negotiating committee, that you two would make a great team.
Yep, and I can share with you the document, and I was just even found the way you presented it, Ruben, at the December 8th school board meeting, so I can share all that with you. Yep.
And I would just like to encourage Ruben to jump in on any of these, because we respect your input and your sense of, things that we can most effectively present. And
Yeah, I thought as part of the initial spiel, in a sense, I would hit some highlights of various, like the teachers' contracts and so forth, because I think it's important that what's the timeline of our budgeting, right? Our timeline of the budgeting is a few months. We can put that in there. But really, the budget, what's the budget is there to help build a strong educational system. And by building a strong educational system, or in order to do that, you do some planning. We have plans. We came together and we started in 2017, and you said, developing some very deep plans with the community as to what we wanted to happen. And then those plans get put into place and then help us to build the budget. And then that budget helps us to then, fund and keep on moving in those directions. And so everything that we're doing, like the collective bargaining agreements, this is now what, the third or fourth one that we've had since I've been here. Everything is working in tandem together to try to build a sustainable system And part of that sustainable system is to develop a budget that's can be sustainable as well over a period of time. We've had, like everyone, COVID happened, and then we had a couple of years of pretty hefty inflation that has changed the game a lot for a lot of people, and we're no different than that. But in general, we would also, it's important to talk about the fact, just, 30 seconds, that all these decisions all along have helped us to get to the budget we were here today. Again, negotiating a contract where we changed the approach to healthcare. We would be starting off tonight or on Wednesday night with a budget that was $1 million or $1.5 million higher than what it was. We wouldn't have any choice because of how the increases have gone over years, and ours have not gone that direction.
What year was that the change was made in the insurance?
2000, it went into play the 2016-17 school year. It was negotiated the 2015-16 school year.
What I like about what you're saying, Ruben, is that we're not just talking about trying to get into the next year or get through a budget season. We are talking about an educational plan that seeks to make our district a good district, a great district. Maybe
An inclusive district, and it takes a lot of work. It does take an enormous amount of work in planning and fighting sometimes in order to get the system that is going to be healthy for all learners and the adults as well within our community. That's just a moral obligation.
Okay,
How long should we plan on presenting? I presume it's 3 minutes tops, but is that what everyone else is thinking?
I think that sounds good myself. I don't know, if you have something, I don't know, talking about the budget process maybe takes a little longer. I don't know. But certainly not more than you need, because people will listen for a short time, but if we drag out what we have to say, they'll get lost.
Yes.
That sounds good.
I'll speak to Article 5.
Okay, so Article 5 would be,
The Special Education Reserve. I'll talk with Jen Horn and get some details from her, get some numbers.
that sounds good. Lisa.
Yeah, we'll get some highlights from her.
Yeah.
Write something up with her. Right, Jen?
Okay. Is there anybody else that has a particular item that either a warrant article or one of the other things that we think important that they'd like to address?
Yeah, I'd be happy to speak to or help speak to the budget article. I don't know, maybe that's one that we could pair up on as well, or. But.
Article 2.
It's Article 2. I saw Maddie's hand raised, it's like totally.
Yeah, actually, that would be helpful. People like you a lot better than me.
Charlie, what do you think?
When's the deadline for getting the slides into you, Leslie?
Sometime tomorrow.
John, I'll tell you, I think it's a great idea, right? But I'm uncomfortable with less than 48 hours to prepare a presentation for deliberative session. I've done it before several times, and I even did the presentation that resulted in a change in the insurance. But those things are things that you need to prepare for. You got to know your audience. You got to know the points you're trying to get across. And you've got to have the visibility. I mean, slides talk bigger than pictures are better than words. And and those things take time to develop. So I don't feel comfortable that I could develop something, in less than 48 hours, in my opinion. Especially when it's going to be less than 48 hours, because I know Leslie has got to have some time to put those things together and put them in that presentation. Plus, you have to have access to Carrie and Jen and other people who may have the real financial information that you need. I mean, I can say one thing, but in order to go back and get the numbers, I'd have to go get them from Carrie because I don't have them on my computer. I mean, I could talk about what happened with Ringe, why they're getting hit a double whammy this time. I could talk to all those things, but those numbers are numbers that Carrie has. And Carrie's going to be busy herself during this time period. So I really, really think it was a good idea, but I don't think it, time-wise, it was something that we should
Enough time.
started earlier.
May I speak to that for a second, Julie?
Yes, Leslie, sure.
So obviously there's a very short time crunch, and if you want a slideshow or something, yes, I would need something by tomorrow afternoon, late in the afternoon, so I have Wednesday to make it beautiful. But I also think one of the issues is bogging people down in too many details instead of in 3 minutes, you don't have time to talk about the details. So you can talk about the big picture, how the budget process works and what we did. Which is what people would be, I think, interested in hearing, not that we're saving 0.06% on this section or that section.
Okay, thank you.
It's just.
Ruben, do you plan to use some of the slides that we already have to present the budget?
I'm gonna make sure that we button up everything presentation wise tomorrow. But, so we'll have those slides and we can send those out so that people can look at those. And if you then want to not have a slide, you know, can remove it.
I wasn't thinking much more than just the article sitting up there.
No, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
We need to have slides of teachers up there for what we're
You
presenting.
could have pictures of sad people going on.
Well, I didn't know, like sometimes we put up like, this is what the contract
Yeah.
provides, this is what's gonna happen.
Yeah,
You know,
I
they,
think that's important.
Right.
More than, like I said, I was at the town deliberative session and they put up just like the text of the warrant article. A little background, a little detail. I think would have gone a long way into understanding what it was versus the text of the warrant article.
I think when you're presenting a warrant article, that you do need to get into enough depth so that people understand why it's going to cost what it's going to cost for that warrant article. Okay, I think that some of the things like the impact on range, that's very, very complicated and you can't do it by saying, well, guess what? This happened in COVID and that happened in COVID, and therefore it's going to cost you more. I mean, people are going to say, so what? You know, you're not telling me anything. I still don't understand why.
Charlie, you make a very good point.
Mm.
we have to work on that, Maddie.
Of course, part of that is me
I'll
too.
share.
When
We'll do a
people
Google
present
presentation.
me,
We'll share it back and
no,
forth.
you know,
I do agree though with Charlie that we should address that. The impact on range taxes again due to. You know, I think anyways, an increase in range enrollment, increase in range valuation and loss of aid on the continued kind of gap in aid between Ringe and Jaffrey. Because it just begs the question, when you look at the warrant article, like why is the impact of $1.19 to Ringe or whatever it is and like 16 cents to Jaffrey? Yeah, it's like, it's the elephant in the room, right?
And whatever you say, some people may question it. Or they may not, but they may have questions or doubts. But at least if there's an effort made to address the issue.
Yeah.
Then maybe some follow-up conversation.
Yeah,
can be
people may
had
not
in
like it.
the-
I don't like it, right? This Ringe taxpayer, I don't
Sure.
like that, but I understand it.
Yeah, to explain it more than just that, if it's not explained to them, they just might think that rent just has to pay more because they have to pay more. So I get that. It shows it equals out in the end too, like how you were looking at it, Chris, before. When you're really digging into why it's like that and then how in the end it might equal out, just it doesn't show it that in those numbers.
And one positive thing about the way our first session and our second session are set up is that there are 5 weeks between the deliberative session and the actual voting. And so there is some time for further communication if that can be helpful. Okay. So. With the petition article. I would be glad to say something to that.
Just the only one I didn't like.
Again, probably not very much. I'm sure that the audience will have their input. They probably, there could be another petition or a modification to the warrant from the petitioner. We've heard some of that. There could be somebody else that wants to introduce something, but I'll certainly can say something about the land and why we, see a value in it for the future of the district.
Yeah.
Again, I would keep my remarks brief. Okay, and
Also, correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought that rather than having no plans for that land, that we had plans for a community center and possibility of building on that land, to have, different, uses of it for both the community and the school. I thought that was still there. The only difference is that we decided that we were going to focus our CTE money and application on upgrading this facility as opposed to building something new. But we were still talking about floating a bond at some time in the future to build something new on that land. So I guess I was not aware that we had decided we weren't going to do anything with it.
I think you're absolutely right, John, and I think that's the point that we should make. We have hopes and plans for that, and that, we think it's a benefit to the whole community, that the benefit can be to the whole community, not just the district.
Leslie. What do we need to give you? When do we need to give it to you and what format do you want it in? And what's the deadline?
Close of business tomorrow.
Okay,
If you can do a Google slide, that's great. If you can't, and you just do something in Word explaining what you want on the slides, I'll work on that.
thank you.
If you do a Google slide, if you just keep the background white.
Yeah.
That will help, I think, probably with formatting.
Yeah.
Say, because right now they are white.
Carrie's coming, so.
Yeah, we have it in the Google, yeah. we
I
have it.
believe it's white. I believe the slide deck is white.
Yeah.
You might have to write me a note to get out of class tomorrow night. I might need a note from the superintendent.
We'll see. We'll see.
If I could ask, if I could ask a consideration, it is impossible to hear in that room. And so if we do highlights on whatever slide we do just a couple of highlights that we're gonna be touching on, that really will help. Here, it's just impossible to hear in there.
I'm hopeful that we can put the speakers slightly differently. The speakers were in front of you last year, so you could not hear any amplified sound.
I've been there for 25 years and I've yet to be able to hear in that space.
Okay, well, Wednesday, Alex is here now,
Yeah.
and we're hopeful that Alex
Alex, you're
will
gonna-
help us have a
you're gonna
better
fix everything, Alex?
situation.
Alex, what do you think?
What do I think?
Are we gonna be able to hear ourselves in there?
If you can't, he has a nice deep voice and he'll be able to repeat everything that he said.
Let's have Alex just say everything after
You
it.
guys know sign language, right? I think we'll get it done.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, great. And Lisa, thank you for bringing that up. It's really true. And we face it every time. It's a difficult place to hear for everyone. And highlighting things so that the messages are simple and people can.
We had a big community center auditorium that kind of fit everybody on the border of Ringe and Jaffrey. I wonder how that could happen.
You get all the Ringe and Jeffrey voting too. You can split it right down the middle, everything there. Oh, my goodness.
Imagine.
They could then go swimming if they wanted to.
Careful now.
I'm just joking.
All right, okay, well, I think we have at least the outlines of a plan. And we understand if you want to use a slide, you need to get to Leslie by tomorrow, 4 p.m. max.
Yeah.
With 2 p.m. is better.
Yes, earlier is better. Don't wait till 4, like, oh, I won't send this to Leslie before. Earlier is better.
All right. Okay, well, thank you. And I think we're on, if there's no more on this at the moment, then feel free if you have thoughts to bring them up later in the meeting, that's fine.
Jen, let me know, Lisa. Yes.
Oh, she and I,
Oh, you've
oh
already-
no,
you've been-
we're good.
okay,
She's got the
alright.
slide. No.
Got it, all set.
Excellent.
Look
Excellent.
at that slide before we leave here tonight.
Shall we move on to our consent agenda? I would like to ask that we take the field trips, at least the CHS Interact Club Dominican Republic field trip out and do that separately.
I'd also like to see the waivers, facility waivers. Waiver facility fees taken out separately.
And have the waivers taken out and done separately, okay. All right, very good. Then if there are no other changes to the consent agenda, then would someone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept the consent agenda as amended.
Thank you, Christine.
A second.
I'll second that.
Okay, thank you, Nate. All right, all those in favor, please signify of the consent agenda, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And so that passes 6-0. And then on the question of the waivers for the facilities use. Is there any discussion on that?
Yeah, I just wanted to know if any, are all of those events covered by, from a student and facilities, safety perspective and security perspective? Are they covered by our resources? Are they covered by, who's covering those? Is there a name for somebody on each one of those events that says, this person has a responsibility of ensuring this building is secure, or if there's an emergency, they know who to call, or if there's, any injuries, who do they notify?
I think I'm going to ask if Sandy would like to
Yes,
provide some input.
this past month, we started instituting on the weekends especially, because it's written in the agreement that we provide a custodial staff to open up the buildings and be available in the event of any type of emergency. So we have been instituting that. That is, when we waive these fees, and that money comes out of, our budget of me paying overtime to those staff members that are coming in to work on the weekends. But yes, those are being covered, Charlie.
Okay, so I didn't know we were working on the weekends.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, they have some things happening on Saturdays and Sundays. The stuff that happens during the week, before 10 o'clock is always covered because we've got staff here until 10 p.m. at night. So it's mostly the Saturdays and Sundays that we've had rec stuff happening at. Right now, I've got rec stuff happening here at the Pratt. So I've been supplying a custodian, and when they can't come, I come myself. And then we've got things happening at both the grade schools on Saturdays also.
No, the custodians doing custodial work, or are they actually observing what
No,
goes
so
on?
we tend to have them meet up with the group that's coming in, make sure everybody gets in safely. Once all is good, we are giving the custodial staff special tasks to do, like a room to get cleaned up extra, or a Florida furnished or whatever. So they are doing custodial stuff. So they're not sitting around. but they're fully available to the group.
My question was, do they occasionally go in and observe and make sure that, you know?
Yes, they are doing walking by and making sure that all is well, yes.
I have a second question. So it's through the Ringe Rec Department. Actually, this is gonna be a couple. First of all, and I'm assuming you have all their forms in Frevo for all the authorizations and everything.
Yes,
The travel basketball, is that children or adults?
that is a question that I do not have. the answer to.
Children.
Is it children?
Yeah.
It's the same kids who are playing. Basically, it's an extension of the program.
Okay, and it's funny, when we did the policy, we talked to the rec departments and wanted the programming for children. Because, yeah, there are children, there are town children, so we wanted to, not make it automatic waivers, we wanted to always see them, but we did it with the intention that we would waive fees for children. And it didn't occur to me that we'd be waiving fees for adult programming. But that's not, that doesn't mean.
Be children, so what we're doing right now, Saturdays for the Pratt, for example, is the Jaffrey Rec Department coming in and using the facilities.
Sorry, Chris, you just went right over.
So they're coming in, so it is, the events that I've been covering have been the children, but, for example, this past weekend, Ringe had their deliberative session on Saturday, I want to say Saturday. So I had to provide the ability to access the building, make sure that the restrooms and stuff were clean and had supplies in them. And then lock up once they were done. So that was not a children's
No,
event.
right, and the town is always covered, like we always for government
Okay,
activities. But what I'm looking at is the adult pickup basketball.
yeah, that's the first time I've seen that. I don't know if that's something new on the agenda. I hadn't seen that before.
It just came to me with all the.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I
All
don't
the
think,
Breville forms, it just came to me as something, it was a request to waive fees, so it came to the board. Board can deny it.
Yeah, I think that's a conversation that we should have. Are we, we set the policy so that we wouldn't be charging our kids, sorry. Sorry. We set the policy so we wouldn't be charging our children, but that didn't occur to me, the amount of time the custodial staff is putting in, this is a financial burden. And always has been. Do we want to, edit the policy at some point to specify for adults? I don't know.
Lisa, I'd like to say that this is the first time I've seen an adult program come through. So I don't think it has been an issue so far since I've been here. This is the first adult thing that I'm seeing come across the account.
Yep,
So I don't think it's, I don't think we're too far behind the ball on that, but I understand what you're saying.
Okay. And it's for the entire month, once a week on Sunday, so 3 or 4 Sundays? That we're hiring for.
I can read it to you.
Yeah.
It says pickup, so my
5
guess, it
Sundays in March.
says pickup, so my guess is that what we're doing is we're taking, basically the rec center wants to have a basketball court to use. That perhaps they do use during the summer, because they got a basketball court over there at the rec center.
No, it's like open gym for adults. I used to go to it. It's just like anyone in town can go play basketball on a Sunday night.
Is it limited to town residents?
I don't know that anybody's checking IDs at the door, but I don't remember
They'll
seeing
fix
people that weren't from Ringe.
And Venus sent this in, who's the rec director down there, right?
Yes.
Yes.
And all he says is adult pickup basketball, that's all I've got on this.
Do they charge for it? So there's no fees to the,
I haven't been in a while, but
So If I can throw in 2 cents here.
While I look up the picture.
I like the idea of making a facility available to the public because it supports the idea that these schools are community schools. Having said that, though, I think that yes, we should look at it. And my sense is that it would be appropriate to approve this, but to then ask questions about the questions that have been raised. What's the cost to us as a district? Is the rec department charging for this? And anything that's germane, because
Well, the conversation brings us back to the concept of what would be possible for these communities on Route 202. There's a need in this area for adults to get together and, be active and so forth. It makes sense. There's, not a YMCA, for instance, right in this immediate region. You have to travel to either Keene or Massachusetts. You have craft fairs that take up, so we do have an adult type of event from Jaffrey, right? Jaffrey has an annual craft fair that does for its fundraiser. And so we allow that to go on. They do make money. That's the point of the craft fair, right? They did very well this year, is my understanding. They actually have that over at Ringe. It worked out better that way for us, even though it was originally supposed to be here. But it came at the wrong weekend for our basketball teams. And so, but we don't charge them for that. We understand we're being good. We're being good partners. We still, as I met about the MOUs, we talked about cleanliness, about upkeep of the facilities, about how do we make sure that takes place, and there's more conversations I think need to happen around that, especially if we're going to open it up to other individuals, like adult pickup basketball, which is new. I'm glad that they have new programming that they think would be working. I agree. Our schools should be servicing our entire community, and we should be running classes here, whether it be through the rec department or whether it be through our own undertakings. Right now, we don't have the capacity to do that right now, but we should be wanting to build our community by providing them with outlets to be in community and to enjoy the towns in which they live and with the people that they have, make a community together with. And so it's a tough one. Yeah, we have real costs. We just have to understand that if we're gonna do this, we're absorbing costs, and we have to be okay with that when we put a budget forward, that this is for the community as well as for kids, and that we need to take care of these facilities, and we shouldn't be ashamed of it, and we shouldn't have to feel that we need to cut corners when we need to take care of the things that are benefiting to all individuals.
So I will go ahead, I will approve this, but I looked at the rec department website and it doesn't look like there is a charge for the pickup basketball. They do state that they open it to up to 90 people. Now, they did not get that for this winter one, but that is what they state. If we ever saw numbers like that, the cost facilities wise would be extensive. So it is something we do want to watch.
Yeah.
So I would approve this now, but on their website, they say they have 90 openings.
That's something that should have been discussed with us. I mean, honestly, that should have been discussed with us if that's for the winter, for the winter adult program. Yeah. And do the adults have to sign waivers?
I didn't go that far into the system. They have a great website and lots of stuff, so I'm assuming that they would. But yeah. So I will make a motion to approve the request to waive facility fees for the Ringe Rec Department March programming through the June and July programming they mentioned.
I'll second.
Lisa, thank you, Christine. All those in favor? please signify by saying aye.
I,
Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Okay, so that passes 6-0. Thank you, good discussion. Field trips, CHS Interact Club to the Dominican Republic, April 19 to 26, 2024. This is one on which I'm gonna abstain, so. If anybody would like to, are there any questions or motion or anything?
I feel, so, do we have any thoughts on how many students are gonna sign up? Just because this is so cool. I just want to know more about it.
I think I've heard that there are 9 students signed up.
We do have a limit. I'm the vice president of Interact, and we have like a limit on how many students can go, just so it doesn't.
It says 11 on the request, so
Yeah, so maybe that's
assuming
okay.
that's it, yeah.
Cool.
And at one point, we had concerns politically with safety in Dominican Republic. And is that been resolved enough that we
That
feel
was
confident?
actually in Nicaragua, I believe.
It was Nicaragua, hence going to Dominican Republic.
Yes.
Thank you. Yes, thank you for the correction. Mhm.
All right, so Christine, did you make a motion?
I will make a motion to accept the request for the CHS Interact Club in the Dominican Republic, April 19th to 26th, 2024.
Okay, thank you.
A second.
And thank you, Lisa, for the second. If there are no questions, then all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed? Abstain? Abstain. I abstain. Okay. Well, thank you. That takes care of that, those items. And then item number 6 is the minutes for January 22nd, 2024 public session.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes for the January 22nd meeting.
Thank you, Lisa.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Nathan. Okay, all those in favor of accepting the minutes for January 22nd, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None, so that passes 6-0. Great. Thank you, everybody. And now action items. The Conant Middle High School Program of Studies.
Well, I'll make a motion, we approve the Corner High School Program of Studies.
I'll second it. I took a look at it. It's a lot of good information. When I was in high school, I would have loved to have a program of studies with this much information and kind of planning it out. So I'll second it.
Making you sound kind of sad, like we.
I mean,
I was in high school, I would have loved to have had something.
You know, in college, you don't have a choice, so it's
Yeah.
like, it's just like, you have to take these.
Yeah,
You can't go off on your own, otherwise you don't get anything out of
right.
it.
Very interesting. Well, thank you for that input. So thank you, Charlie, and thank you, Nate. Is there any further discussion?
Yeah, I'd like to know when the students will have the schedule so that they can start filling them out. And will they be done by the end of the year? So in other words, when a learner leaves, all right, in June, are they going to know what their classes are for the following year?
Great question.
So we have 2 individuals online, one or two, who could answer questions about this and processes. And the individuals are Kim Baker and David Duffin, and they're going to be able to. So I'll ask, is it okay if they would be willing, if they'd be able to?
Yes, please.
All right.
So you can recognize either one if they raise their hand?
Hi, this is
Hi,
Kim.
this is Kim.
Yep, I heard you, Kim.
Well, I can respond to your questions about the timeline. If the program of studies is approved tonight, our plan is to start the course selection process next week with all learners at the middle high school, leaving the course selection process open up until February vacation. And then we'll take a look at what requests look like, staffing, and then start to build a master schedule with the hopes of having schedules in hand mid-May for our learners. So we have an opportunity to meet with learners before the end of the school year to resolve any conflicts, any issues, answer questions our learners or their families have about their schedules.
Okay, thank you, Kim.
Thank you.
Okay, are there any further questions? And thank you, Charlie, for the question. Okay, if there are no further questions, all those in favor of the motion to accept the CMHS program of studies, please signify by saying aye.
Hi.
Aye. Opposed? Abstain? And so that passes 6-0. Thank you, everybody. And now we have first reading on policies ECA and BBBE. Lisa, would you like to address these?
Be happy to. So we approved pretty recently policy ECA on security in the buildings and wanted to create cleaner language around the locking of doors outside of school hours. So Alex, would you mind scrolling down just a little bit to fully take on the highlighted section?
Just give me a minute, please.
Yep.
Starting. Oh, come on, get over here. Look here.
Thank you, Leslie.
Is that what you want to see?
Yeah.
There's somewhere to watch.
So pretty much what we're adding in, instead of simply and very clearly saying locked at all times, we are also giving the added permission for the principals and the superintendent to be able to say, these people are going to be monitoring the door. It's going to be unlocked at these times. So giving them some authority. This is not just giving anybody authority to keep doors unlocked. And I really hope it doesn't become construed as that. This is still specific. You know, we still need to make sure things are locked and secured. And so hopefully this will make it a little clearer and and I think each time we look at this is an opportunity for people to be reminded to take it very seriously.
Sandy has a question.
Yeah.
Who? Sandy.
Is it okay if I speak?
John, Sandy would like to.
Yes.
John, I was involved with some of the questions about this policy. It still isn't super clear, and it's not clear because it's saying that authorization will include times when it'll be unlocked as well as who's responsible for securing it. So once it's unlocked, are we requiring somebody to be there to keep an eye on the door?
That would be up to the superintendent and
And
the
the principal?
principal.
Okay.
So in policies, we focus on a general, and then there are procedures. And we generally in the policy committee do not create the procedures, but if somebody like the facilities manager wants to create a procedures piece of this, you know, generally that would, if we wanted to put it in the policy, that would become ECA-R. So if you see policies with an R, those are the procedures attached to the overarching policy. So, you know, I think procedures for each school absolutely have to happen.
Okay.
It's just not something that the policy would.
So would the board be accepting of, for example, these meetings that are publicly open for me to unsecure the doors while we're sitting in here without having somebody out there to be able to come into these meetings freely. Is that gonna be an acceptable practice? Cause I can set timers for when doors can be locked and unlocked. So I think one of the concerns that Mr. Dustin has is that we unlock a door and there's not somebody there. So again, you're saying that it'll be his discretion, right? Is that what we're saying?
That becomes complicated because I did think the doors were unlocked. This is a public meeting. We have to have the public be able to get in. And so I don't know why, like, I think when we were in the music room, maybe it was easier to hear and see things. I don't know. But if we have a space, maybe I'm speaking out of turn, but my opinion is if we have a space where we're having a public meeting, then we should be in view of a door. Yeah, that's a public door, like we need it unlocked. So you're absolutely right. Is there room for people to look online and say, here's when the school is gonna be unlocked? Absolutely.
So it goes back to the very first sentence of that paragraph that we've got highlighted there. Exterior doors shall be closed and locked at all times. Meaning they need to be secured.
Yep.
So that's where the question comes in. I don't have a personal opinion on this. I will do whatever is required, but it is very difficult when thankfully that guy had called me today and had my cell phone number. The folks that joined us tonight, otherwise they wouldn't have come to this meeting.
Right.
When they tried to get in, she had just missed them, Leslie, just missed them because they had just headed back up to the parking lot. And so, but they wanted to come to the meeting.
Right.
But they texted me, I'm not always here, and just so happens that they had my number. They don't have anybody else's numbers to be able to get in here to be a part of public meetings.
Yeah.
I think it's just something that we appreciate. I'm gonna speak for myself. I appreciate the efforts to make some changes, and these are good changes, but I think that you were saying that perhaps I need to come up with some procedures and fly it by our superintendent and our principals to see if they're okay with it, and then we can bring it to policy. Is that what we would do on something like that?
Policy really wouldn't even
Wouldn't need
deal
to
with
say
the
it?
procedures.
Okay.
This would be the discussion of there. And as I'm thinking about it, what I remember from the previous meetings is that Juno would unlock the doors or the custodial staff, and we had enough custodians going around that we felt the door should be unlocked because we had custodians on the floors at all times working now. So I think that was why we kept them open. Maybe I'm looking at that differently, but I felt like we were always seeing custodians moving by, and they had cheerleading going on in the gym at the same time, and there was always activity.
Yes.
And so, I guess we always kept it open for that.
It is one of those, even with these, all of these basketball programs that we just approved. Does the custodian unlock the door and the kids can come and go? Right, because sometimes it stays locked. Sometimes at RMS, you see the door still propped open with those orange buoys. It's.
I'd say that's the practice that I've seen in reality, whether it should be or not. And to me, it's definitely not the right thing, especially on like these 0-degree days during the winter when you have doors propped open.
Right.
There's got to be a better way to do it.
Yeah, I was just at the Wilton Lineborough gym over the weekend for basketball. And so this idea is in my head, so I'm looking and observing whenever I'm in a different school, and I realize that what they've done is the door is unlocked. But all the other hallway doors are shut, and if there's a hallway that cannot be shut, they have tables. Whether, of course, this wouldn't actually stop anyone who really
But it would
wanted,
be a deterrent.
but it would be a deterrent from, a kid running around and throwing ball down the hallway. So I think it needs to be looked at, continue to look at and see how we can improve it and direct traffic. Is what I think is the concern, if you let people in, how do you direct them so they're only going where you want them to go?
When we have events in the Pratt, we have that situation where we are locking off the rest of the schools so they don't have access to anything except for the Pratt into the locker room. So
Right.
we do have that ability down there. Perhaps we could institute some more of those gates in other locations.
Yeah.
So I will talk with principals and with Ruben about that and see if we can come up with something that everybody still feels safe with.
RMS can be sealed, so that's,
What did you say, Trevor?
so RMS can be sealed. That's one of the few. Matter of fact, it's the only one I think can be sealed at the main entrance.
Yeah, they have those entrances.
They've got the gates, they've got the door going up the steps, they got the door into the offices, they got the cafeteria, and they got the gym, and that's it.
Policy BBBE is a new one to us. And it deals with how to address as our school board vacancies. This is a policy taken from New Hampshire School Board Association. And it builds on the law, where the law states that the school board members residing in the town of the officer leaving decide the next party. And what this does is it builds on that, saying this is a process whereby the school board as a whole has more notification, the public as a whole has more notification and a say and a voice in what happens, rather than a much quieter insular picking and choosing. So this is a recommendation by multiple school board members, and we are putting it forth for your first reading. Thank you.
Good job.
Thanks. And that's it.
Okay, thank you, Lisa.
Welcome.
And let's move on then to board committee updates. Any committee that has met since our last meeting? Could we ask for, an update on?
Well, the wellness committee met, and we heard a great update on the Conan Pine Garden Club. That they're using hydroponic systems to grow lettuce and peas inside the school. Some of that's ready to harvest. They have the 2 beds outside that have already been built and filled, and they're planted with garlic and onions. And the students, it's a small crew that are participating in the garden club at this point. But in any case, they want to build the remaining garden beds, and they're looking for donations from, I think, Home Depot for the wood. And they have lots of seedlings started, and they're working with the cafeteria, with the food service program, to see if they can sell what they raise to the food service program, which would be wonderful. And also they're looking into selling at the Jaffrey Farmers Market and perhaps the Ringe Farmers Market during the summer. And the other things we talked about were the possibility of a spring walk to school day, which that's not confirmed yet, and just the triennial assessment. I don't think I missed anything. The triennial, is that what you said, triennial assessment? Yes.
Thank you, Christine. Are there any other committees that have met since January 22nd? Or anybody who has a update on their next meeting or?
Hey, we just have the education committee this week on Thursday, I think.
I'm sorry, Nathan, what?
Quiet. Education committee, I think, is meeting this Thursday at 4:30.
This Thursday, okay. The 8th?
Yep.
Great.
I am wondering, since we've had such success with Facebook posts and moving as a board trying to move more towards transparency, I'm wondering if it makes sense. Please tell me all the reasons it doesn't make sense or that it's too much work. If when minutes, committee meeting minutes are handed in, that maybe whoever took the minutes highlighted a couple bullet items, and then that there was a Facebook post saying the wellness committee met and blah, 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 blah. And then just a link to where the rest of the minutes might be found. Because it is in the committees that most of the nitty gritty work happens. And it's very difficult to find things on these minutes. And in fact, the facility minutes have not been posted in quite a while. So there's quite a backlog, so you can't even find those minutes. And so it's very difficult if someone wanted to find out what was happening on the 202 land in terms of timbering. Those minutes aren't posted and it's created some confusion. But if we could just take something, a couple bullet items and highlight them and make a Facebook post about it, I think it might help create transparency. But I also understand that it could create a situation where people expect answers to questions, which I don't think we want to get into. So I'm throwing that out there. I'm wondering what you think.
May I speak to that? It's a been doing Facebook.
Only there's all the reasons why not to do it.
No, it's not easy, that's fine.
Okay.
Would that be okay, John?
We're gonna go to public comments in just a minute. Could you wait to that?
Sure.
Because that way we can get,
You did it all at once.
yeah, get
I'm sure there's a million reasons to not do it.
I think it's, sounds like a good idea. I think we should look into, I think we should give it a little bit of thought,
Mhm.
but I think you're right, there's some kind of access to those minutes and making it easier to find them is, it's gonna help transparency. Especially if we can do it without creating a monster.
Yeah.
One of the related questions to that, who has the responsibility for doing posting on Facebook page? And how does one, access that?
Well, that's why I would speak to it.
Okay,
Yeah, Leslie will talk about that in public comments, about the whole process, and you can probably ask questions then too.
okay,
Right now, she has been the primary person for the last two months. 2 months, yeah.
okay. All right, good. Well, are there any other committee updates at the moment? I know facilities has not met. I don't think finance has met since the 22nd, right, Charlie?
Right.
All right, so if there's no other urgent committee updates, why don't we move on to public comments and we can hear from Leslie and anybody else who's online who would like to make comments. So, Alex, I'll ask you to let people who are online know that this is the time for that. And why don't we start out with Leslie, but we want to get you a microphone.
No, that's wired. Which is. Okay, so I have a public comment that's not about Facebook.
Okay,
I would really love to see a comparison for how many fees we've waived for Range versus Jaffrey for the two towns. Because as a Jaffrey resident, I looked at the agenda tonight and said, wow, I'm subsidizing the Range Rec Department. And I can't go to those things. I'm not a Range town member. And it's one thing to support this community, but we're excluding part of the community that's paying those bills. So I have an issue with that. I'm going to bring it up every single time I'm here. Because I do think it's a big equity problem for taxpayers. All right. Now, Facebook. Let's talk about Facebook. Right now, for the past, since the middle of December, I've been doing Facebook posts. Justina is taking that over. Okay. Posting things to Facebook is not hard. I mean, the more things we have in the hopper, the better it is. We want to post something every morning at 6 a.m. We like it to be child friendly. That 6 a.m. post, child and parent friendly, because we want people to see something happy and fun, and they want to see their kids, and they want to see the teachers, and they want to see what's going on. But and then later on in the day, if we have business type posts, then we try to post those then. All right, but we can't be digging through stuff to figure out what the post should say. So if you decide that you want your committees to give updates through Facebook, that's fine. Tell us what you want it to say. And Justina's not here.
we'll make a pretty post for you. All right, and you give us the caption of what you want to say. As far as minutes goes, I don't know what's happened this year. I don't know if other committees have submitted minutes, but I only have minutes from wellness this year and the last policy. All right, if other committees have submitted minutes, I don't have them, and please send them to me. And they do get updated on the website as soon as I get them. But the page wasn't made for this year, so I don't know where any of them are. All right, but I will put them, and yes, we could definitely link to the minutes. That's easy. As far as engaging with a poster, like if we put up a post that says the wellness committee met and they want to sell their food at the farmer's market. And if someone starts complaining about that or something like that, we will not engage. I have engaged only, like, I apologized when I made a mistake in a post. When we've had posts with May the dog, and it looks like the post is being posted by a parent on behalf of the child, I reply woof, because I think the child would like that. Maybe May is answering them. But we try to keep that very light and not engage. And we do refer things to the proper principal or teacher or advisor or whatever if someone's got a question. But we don't try to answer that because we don't want, it's not the appropriate forum. And we're not informed enough to answer those questions correctly. But if you want to make this a process, yeah, it's fine.
Thank you. Oh, but Leslie,
Thank you, Leslie.
in terms of, I know that the basketball programs are being run through the Ringe Rec Department. But I can, honestly, there are kids on that program who are from Jaffrey, from Conval, and from New Ipswich, and I don't know if that makes you feel better or not, but.
How do they know about it? How did they find out
So
about
they
it?
can't, I mean, any non-resident cannabis costs more.
Yeah, cost.
Just-
Okay, because it's advertised to Ringe residents. You have to be in like the Life of Ringe group to know about it. The adult basketball, like, not that I'm gonna,
I guess just.
if I could too, gonna take up basketball, but,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, and I would like to speak to that as well. We literally had this conversation about, I was just looking at the agendas 6 months ago. Because when we made the policy and had a lot of conversations about the towns getting to using the waivers and MOUs. Part of this is the MOU process doesn't come before us. So if there are MOUs with the Jaffrey Rec Department or the Jaffrey Town or the Ringe Rec, we don't see those. What we see are ones that are outside of the MOU or haven't been through that. So that doesn't mean somebody's not doing it. But also I remember 6 months ago having this conversation because we had multiple meetings where it was Jaffrey. It was like, where are the Ringe waivers?
Well, that's
And
right.
so
Yeah.
it's all balancing out. It's just.
I don't know that it's all balancing out because I've looked at now the entire year's worth of minutes this year. So and also we go through apportionment, so we don't pay equally for what's going on. And the right money from the right budget should be expended for the right expense. And we're not doing that. And I think that's really not right. And I think this leads to a lot of confusion and problems, like if we put an improvement in at Humiston, who owns that? This is a school facility, not a town facility. We encourage the town to use it. We make MOUs for certain things, like when I was a Girl Scout leader in my old school district, I didn't pay for my meetings, but I did pay for my father-daughter dance. Right, because that was a fundraiser for me and was outside of normal school hours. Right, and we were expected to pay for that because it was a burden on the school to do that. But that wouldn't be waived, even though I'm a nonprofit. And I just think this really needs a lot more thought because I don't think Jaffrey residents should be subsidizing Ringe's rec department. I don't think Ringe's should be subsidizing Jaffrey. I just don't think that's the right arrangement. So I'm eager to see the MOUs. I mean, I don't know if that they've been written yet. They're in process, I assume.
All right, very good. Alex, have you got anybody else there online who has
No rush.
put up a hand? Okay, all right, very good. unless there's some really critical issue, I think most people don't sit through these meetings and I don't. But, okay. So we are on to, probably the most important part of the meeting agenda, which is, the final motion. Unless anybody has anything else for board matters, we did do board matters earlier in the night, but if anybody has anything else, feel free. Or if not,
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Let's second that.
Christine, thank you, and thank you, Nathan. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
I think that passed 6-0. Thank you very much.
Yep.
Maybe we want to-